Assalamu alaikum and good day to everyone that's watching this recording. I am Muhammad Yusof bin Kamaruzaman, and in this recording, I would like to present a pilot study that has been done on the practices of preserving authenticity in traditional Malay kuih among producers in Klang Valley. Right. This presentation will follow through the basic chapters of research accordingly. Sorry. All right. To start off the introduction, this research project was proposed to acknowledge the heritage of Malaysia in general and in specific the food heritage. Due to the multiracial status of the nation, the cultural heritage has now become such unique assets to the economy. The economic growth of the nation, which are regarded as important, especially to the tourism industry. Having said that, the uniqueness of the cultural heritage, especially the food in Malaysia, lies in the identity representation that the food is portraying. I mean, our cultures, antiquities, and traditional practices are unique to our own. And all of these are also embodying the phrase Malaysia truly Asia. However, for this research, the Malay ethnic is being given the focus of its food heritage. This is because there are many other sub-Malay ethnicities within it. I mean, the Javanese, the Banjaris, Buginis, and lots more. Despite all of this uniqueness, however, the era of modernization, globalization, and also standardization may have ignored heritage foods and consequently diluting the distinct characteristics of it as compared to other contemporary diets. In this regard, authenticity of such food is being given a big question mark. In the market also, several research have been reported that the decline in authentic Malay kueh being sold despite the demand for it. Where handmade delicacies are normally equated to traditional qualities, authenticity of heritage food is to be expected if the production is taking that route. Besides that, there has been noticeable gap in scholarly documentations for traditional Malay kueh. Usually, it only amounts to small inclusions within larger subject of Malay food heritage writings. Therefore, this research is set to focus on the traditional Malay kuih as a category by itself that houses an array of delicacies with myriads of traditions and also nostalgias. The little exposures of how certain experts or producers kept their traditional Malay kuih production authentic is to be explored as to better understand the phenomenon of preserving the continuity of authentic traditional Malay kuih production. So, accordingly, these are the research questions and the corresponding objectives for this research, at least for this pilot study. For the literature review, the topic of Malay food heritage, the traditional Malay kuih, and also the heritage preservation dominate the documentation for this research. And for the theory of this research, the conservation resources theory was used, well, at least in this pilot study again, as it metaphorically explains essentially on how the ways to preserve or to survive a subject through obstacles. For the methodology sections, qualitative research design was used to get the right data to explore the phenomenon, and due to the nature of the data is actually lived experiences, phenomenological case study approach is being used. Klang Valley has been chosen for the setting of this pilot study as to acknowledge the persistent authentic production which is unbothered by the claim to be rapid development status. The informants were from Kuala Langat for this pilot study. Non-probability sampling governed the informant selection with specific characteristics, and snowballing technique was used in the pilot study. All informants were interviewed face-to-face using semi-structured interview questions. Thematic analysis used to analyze the data for this pilot study. Now we go to the findings. Okay, now for the findings, again, I reiterate that this presentation is the pilot study portion of a research project. Thus, only 3 informants documented so far. Finding Two themes for each research questions were analyzed through, again, thematic analysis. And for the meaning of authenticity of traditional Malay kueh, the informants are informed that the traditional product quality and the respect for culture signify authenticity in traditional Malay kueh. This explains on the aspect of determinants, as how should the traditional Malay kueh be in order to be authentic. Findings for the research question number 2 revolve around the practices that these informants normalize in the production of their traditional Malay kueh, as to preserve the authenticity accordingly. We all know that most old recipes for traditional food, be it kueh or not, may not be documented in black and white, right? So these informants, however, opted for standardized recipe documentation for their businesses, while at the same time passing down the knowledge to their children, their successors. Um, while having these practices normalized, the organization of production is also crucial to ensure smooth operation, which guarantees persistent quality production of the traditional Malay kueh. All right. To conclude, the authenticity from this pilot study is understood as the intrinsic features of the product itself, which is the traditional Malay kueh, which encompass all the familiar traditional flavors like the sweet, spicy, creamy aroma and taste of pandan leaves, coconut, the spices, and more. Also, the different textures and colors that represent the complex Malay culture. In order to preserve the authenticity, documentations can do wonders to ensure quality productions accordingly to the traditional characteristics. With documentation, it is also helping to materialize the knowledge into black and white, and thus eases the transferring of knowledge to the youngsters to sustain its continuity. As for the recommendations, I mean, this is a pilot study, so ideally no recommendations because the research haven't been done yet. I reiterate that this is a partial exception from the research project, as to give initial exposure of the researchers to the setting, phenomenon, and interviewing, and also the data analysis. From this stage, series of reviews may be needed to update the interview protocol with much in-depth inquiries, I mean the questions. And also triangulations for the main data may be supported by data triangulation from the consumers, and also the observation, because I mean informants can say one thing but we might observe them doing the other thing. So this will help to strengthen the overall future data for this research when the data collection for real data collection being begins, I mean initiated. And I guess that would end my presentation, my recording for today. Thank you for your time to view this video. So this is the references that are included in this presentation. Thank you.